Bijan Amadian.
Thank you. I'm going to pour some water first because I'm suffering from a bit of a cold.
No
I
problem.
want to make sure you guys can hear me. The timer is still going, by the way.
Yeah, I'll just reset that for you.
Thank you.
And Nicholas Prouton is on deck.
Well, thanks, everyone. My name is Bijan Amadian. I am the owner-operator of the Odyssey Bar and Nightclub, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Odyssey. I'm here to speak in support of this project because I think it's a great project. But I'm also here to express some concerns, some serious concerns with respect to safety and the rule of law that I think the council should take into account when considering this. I am here to propose a limitation that I think will make these events safer than they are. And in particular, with respect to the amount of alcohol that's consumed in these projects. Basically, the concern that we've had with myself, a number of event organizers and bar owners that I've spoken with, is that they have turned into makeshift nightclubs. The intention behind this project is to create events that are reasonably safe. And when you have people who are substantially intoxicated with a special occasion license and do not go through the rigorous safety procedures that we do as nightclub owners, you create substantial amount of risks. So I have been to some of these events myself over the course of the past years, and examples of safety issues that I have seen are going into, well, first of all, not being enough washrooms for the number of people that were in the space. Second, washroom has absolutely no light, completely dark, very, very, very stinky, which is a health hazard. No coat check, completely overcrowded, substantially overcrowded. And as far as insurance goes, keep in mind that the program does not require an insurance. So if somebody gets hurt, they don't really have a remedy as far as financial remedy goes in the most likely situation. Whereas in nightclubs, we have the bar watch program. We scan people before they come in. Because we run our events throughout the year and we are long-term as opposed to occasional, we make sure that we abide by health rules. We have to abide by substantial amount of rules with respect to liquor branch. We get inspected regularly by the city and by the liquor branch. And as I talk about all these enforcement issues, you might say, well, there's nothing wrong with the program. I'm just expressing enforcement concerns which fall under the liquor branch and the police's shoulders. But the truth is there is not enough resources out there as far as the liquor branch and the police goes to check on these makeshift nightclubs and make sure that they are running safely and that they're respecting the rule of law. Now, I don't expect you to be able to define art and culture narrowly. As someone who's danced for 10 years and has been part of the art scene, fundraised for many arts organizations, I think you need to keep the definition as broadly as it is. But I also don't think that imposing a per person serving limit is unreasonable. People will not experience art and culture if you tell them that their liquor consumption should be limited to 2 to 3 drinks per person. They can still do wine tasting. They can still do beer tasting. But if they're having 6, 7, 8, 9 drinks during the night, that's a whole other world. We look after people when they've had that much to drink. My staff make sure that they have a taxi to go to take that, they'll take them home. We have arrangement with taxi companies. We make sure that we log every person that leaves. We make sure that we take down the name of the friend that they leave with. We follow up with them the next day to make sure they got home okay. Because we have liabilities and we have insurance requirements that require us to do that. And I don't think it's the intention of the city to create these makeshift nightclubs out there. And they are out there. Everybody who's spoken about this talked about how this is an alternative to the bar environment. And I think it's okay for it to be an alternative to the bar environment as long as it's not another bar. And so I am encouraging you to set a limit on the amount of consumption per person. And I suggest that should be 2 to 3. So that will discourage people from going into these places and basically getting hammered without there being proper safety measures. That is the extent of my comment, and I appreciate the time to speak with you. It's taken a lot of courage to come here because I was told that coming here and expressing these concerns would result in me and the Odyssey being vilified on social media for being anti-culture and anti-art, and we are none of those. We have created a very safe space that people can come and enjoy and come to terms with who you are without fear or prejudice. I just want to make sure that we have other safer spaces in town.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
You have questions from Councillor Stevenson.
Sure.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
I'm a bit concerned by the terminology made. Have you had any discussions at all with the police yourself about this?
No, but I have been told when I spoke with some of the city staff about my concerns that they are aware of at least one event that has had some serious concerns, and they have talked to the organizers, and so some of these concerns that I've expressed are on record. The examples that I gave you are things that I have personally experienced.
And how would you propose that they would limit the drinks? Where would they get the staff and so on, the wherewithal to watch everybody?
Right. So that's a good question. Logistically, how do you incorporate it? And the best way to incorporate it is that when people arrive at the door, they pay for drinks. They get their 2 maximum drink tickets, and that's the drink tickets. And then the bar doesn't accept any more, doesn't sell any more tickets. They just take your drink tickets. Now, throughout the night, obviously, some people can exchange their drink tickets and give it to someone else. But at the end of the day, you can't have 7 or 8 drinks in one night.
Unless you can find those tickets on your...
Yeah, unless you really are charming. Yeah.
Okay, well, you've raised a number of interesting things, the insurance being one, and I really don't know much about this area, so after all the speakers, we'll ask the staff some of these questions.
Well, the website recommends insurance, but it's not a requirement to have insurance. So if I am injured at that space and I then want to go sue the event organizer, the event organizer is probably not going to be in a financial position to provide me with the care that the court says they should be able to provide. Even if I win in court, there's no money to go after because there's probably no insurance.
In your own legal profession, I know that you're in the legal profession as well as running. Have you encountered this kind of suit at all?
Well, yeah, it happens all the time. If you open the liquor branch guidelines, it has example after example of people who have been injured, having left liquor primary environments, and there are all sorts of guidelines on how to minimize that, how to have accountabilities. That's why we have logs on every single incident. That's why we follow up with people. That's why we make sure we call the taxis to pick people up when they're intoxicated. That's why we have the first aid kit and we have people on training. And that's why we invest into training and retraining our staff to make sure that those procedures are in place. But when you go to a space where there's not even enough light, the washroom's completely dark. And I use that washroom myself. And I watched everybody else do the same thing. There were 2 stalls, completely dark.
Wow, and you said rather smelly and so on.
Yeah, the smelling was also disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
So I see the police are here.
Yeah.
So we'll probably hear from them a little later.
Yep, okay.
Thank you.
Of course, my pleasure.
Councillor DiGenova, questions?
Thank you very much for your comments. I am looking on page 4 of the report, and it says that examples of the events, so over 100 events have taken place.
Right.
You are referencing events you've attended.
Exactly.
Can you tell me how many of those 100 events?
2 events. Okay. So like I said at the beginning, I'm in support of the program. I think it's a fantastic project. All I'm saying is limit the alcohol consumption per person because it doesn't undermine the intention of the project at all.
Okay, so another question I have, just because some of the points that you raised will be questions that I will pose to staff, and as Councillor Stevenson said, perhaps there'll be some comments on those later, but I'm also wondering here, the speaker before you had talked about all age events, so some events being dry events.
Yeah.
There's a different type of nightlife theme for everyone. I think that's what this program is trying to do.
Absolutely.
There are people who don't necessarily want to spend their evening at a nightclub, but somewhere else.
Exactly.
That being said, there are special provisions and hoops you have to jump through to get a special occasion license. So are you saying that you don't feel that those guidelines are stringent enough?
Nope, the guidelines are very stringent, actually. If the guidelines were followed, they're great. The problem that we have in this province and in the city is that there is not enough resources to enforce them. So that's the problem we have. And what I'm saying is that by adding that extra restriction, you don't take away from the intention of the event. I actually talked to some of the staff as well, and they're like, yeah, if you're having a couple of drinks, that's probably all you need to have to enjoy a cultural show and be a part of it. You don't need to have 7 or 8 drinks.
Thank you very much for your
Of
comments.
course. Yeah.
Councillor Carr?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks so much for coming. I really
Of course.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume, but I will ask staff about this, that every one of these events would have to have a liquor permit license, and that would have to be applied for by someone with a serving it right license,
Right.
and that there is a maximum amount of liquor that can be served.
Absolutely.
Are you okay about the maximum amount of liquor that can be served on the serving it right allowed? Because 2 drinks per...
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. That's all good. It's just that rule is not being followed.
Okay, so you're not asking for something different, because I will also ask staff, but I don't think we have the right as a council to circumvent what is a liquor control board process.
No,
but as long as
you
you're
are
okay.
allowed to say how much drink should be served in these events per person. You can do that. So liquor license it has so much restriction, but I believe you can restrict it even further as a city. And I have had to deal with those restrictions myself as a bar owner, where the Vancouver's restrictions go above and beyond what the liquor branch restrictions are, and Burnaby's restrictions are a little bit different, and Richmond's restrictions are a little bit different. So cities do have that jurisdictions, and you can get that from your legal counsel, but you are allowed to restrict the number of drinks per person that are served in these events.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I will ask and make sure that whether or not the city has that right.
Yep.
Whether or not the license that one would get as a special permit is at 2 drinks. I don't have a. I don't think it is. I think it's something like that. That's not that much. But I'll ask.
Yeah.
And I'll also ask about the enforcement, because I don't know how many cases this has come up with, but you've noted a couple of cases, and especially about the lighting as well, which is an issue of concern. So thank you for raising these.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay, that's all your questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
for being here. And our next speaker, speaker number 10, Nicholas Prouton, followed by speaker number 11, Thomas Hoff. That's the last registered speaker. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank everybody for allowing me to speak today. And just briefly, in response to some of the comments that were just made by the previous speaker, I would like to say that drinks are already limited on the SOL, that we, in specific at the Vancouver Art and Leisure, are already insured for each event up to $5 million, so those precautions are taken. We are very active in creating a safe environment, and I know for a fact, being quite young myself, that I attend bars and clubs and all these things, and they are just as smelly, they are just as hot, they are just as foul at times. That's what happens when you cram 300 people who are sweating in a room. Now, I'd also like to make mention that, there are often altercations that happen at perfectly legal bars and clubs. And within the 8 months that I have been working at the Vancouver Art and Leisure, I have never once had to de-escalate a violent situation. We are very active in creating a safe environment for everyone. Now, 1 second, please. I'd like to say that as a young person, still trying to figure out exactly where I fit, I feel that this program has been influential in creating a platform and an environment for me to exercise my creativity and really recognize my full capacity. My points are very brief, and it is essentially that the one I just made, that by increasing the number of licenses here, you are teaching young people that they have the capacity to succeed without expansive amounts of wealth, within the boundaries of the law. And that if you take a more restrictive approach on this program, that these events will continue to happen regardless with your approval. So what you're encouraging instead is that people do things illicitly, which I don't think is a dialogue the city really wants to be having. I think that this program is fantastic as a stepping stone, but there still is a long way to go in terms of understanding what art and culture is. And in closing, I would just really like to say that, Matt has made this point already, as have other speakers. This is not just a makeshift nightclub. I myself host galleries. There are just live performances there. And the intention when people come out here is one often of like higher critical thinking, whereas in a club or a nightlife environment, more often than not, it is in the context of getting messed up and removing that critical thinking. Thank you.
Thank you. You have questions from Councillor Carr first.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks so much for coming. I want to verify from your presentation, it sounds like many of the events are through your organization are aimed at youth. Is that true?
It's really dependent on the individuals that are hosting the event. Myself, being a younger person, I think that I'm more inclined to appeal to a younger demographic. But with that being said, the very first event I threw, I would say that the average attendance of the person was 30. Not just those within their 20s.
From my perspective. Okay, it's all relative,
All
indeed.
subjective.
And do you have to get, if you're in an organizational capacity, do you get a special permit for a liquor permit for the event?
Absolutely.
Okay. And have you seen very many incidents in the events that you've hosted or you've been involved in of people drinking way beyond any reasonable measure?
No, as I said before, in the 8 months that I've been working here at the Vancouver Art and Leisure and in the couple events that I've hosted out there, it's been fantastic to observe the dialogue that we create about responsible partying and enjoying oneself in a responsible manner. And I cannot recall a time where somebody had to have been removed from the premise accordingly.
And do you at your events have those people who have serving at right licenses, so therefore responsible for the amount of alcohol that is served?
All our staff is completely legal, and in terms of security and not enforcing, we do take the time to hire appropriate legally certified staff to do all the things that you would, and security measures that you would see taking place at a bar or club.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councillor Ball, questions?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for coming in tonight. You said something that really twigged my interest, which is your ability to find yourself doing this kind and find out what you were interested in or the art you were interested in. Is it because there's less pressure when you have a less formal environment that you're able to feel a way that you can create or present something new or that could fail and that's okay? Or I'm just interested in what makes it most interesting for you.
Absolutely. There is that element of, yes, there's less pressure. I feel like it's a very safe environment for me to, take my first steps into business and into curation. And, I feel that the environment that we create is safe. I can fail, and I feel like I have this safety net. I have failed, and Matt has been there to catch me. He's also been an incredible mentor in that respect.
That's great,
Yeah.
because I know that you can't move on unless you've experienced failure and found something new. So it was good to hear you say that.
Absolutely, and if I could just briefly make mention, uh-oh.
That's okay. Take your time.
Take your time. I know. So on top of there being a decreased amount of pressure, in other environments such as clubs or other avenues, it's multiples of thousands of dollars. And on top of booking all your talent, on top of booking, all of these various expenses, and due to this program, I've been able to minimize the cost of that. Without myself owning, an excess of wealth, I've been able to to really do something to the best of its abilities. So.
And that's interesting too, just in terms of business. What you're talking about is learning the business, right? Excellent. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Councillor DeGenova?
Just one quick question on something you said also sparked a question with me, and that is the gentleman who spoke before you, he had talked about 2 events that he had had negative experiences at out of 100. I understand that all of these events are independent from each other, but in your group, in this group that you belong to, I would guess there would be some policing of yourselves without the police department, that if there was an event that hadn't worked out, that you would look at that event and perhaps maybe learn from that. And I'm not sure if there have been events like that, but is that something that you've come across, that there have been events that haven't worked, so you've had provisions in future events for that?
Absolutely. I mean, as with everything, it's and especially I'm not the only young thing here. The program itself is quite young. We learn to roll with the punches, and it's a constant learning and growing process. So when we do encounter a problem, people are usually quite vocal to us. We are there, observing it as it happens, and we adapt as fast as possible to those situations. And then when things are finished, we sit back, we analyze the situation, and then we take the steps necessary to make sure that they don't happen again. But there has not been anything in a major capacity.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all your questions.
Cheers.
Thanks very much. And final registered speaker, Thomas Hoff. And then I'll call 3 times to see if there's any more people here to speak on this item. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Thomas Hoff. I'm a systems administrator at UBC, and I'm a frequenter of the events at Vancouver Arts and Leisure and Redgate Society. While I completely support this program, I do think it should be amended to increase the frequency of events from 3 every month to once a week. Just because I really like to support the scene. Being able to do so requires more events to take place. That's it. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. No questions for you. So as is our practice, I'll call 3 times. Are there any more speakers here for item number 1? Sure, if you'd step up to the mic and give us your name for the public record.
My name is Benjamin Wu. Thanks to the team for making this report, and thanks to the councillors for listening. I just saw a post from Facebook earlier today. They were looking for people to speak out in support. I looked over the recommendation. Honestly, I was pretty surprised and confused to see why they would be a limit to only 3 events per month. I've attended one of the arts and leisure events. It was fantastic. It creates a very different atmosphere than the standard nightclub. I can completely understand that nightclubs could see this as a competition, a business aspect, and seek to discredit the kind of work that these people are doing. And I don't like to see that. I really hope that the city council will take initiative in creating more opportunities for culture in the city. I think that it's fantastic that Vancouver is attracting musicians. And I'd also like to point out that it seems that this system is not only going to apply to groups that do dance parties, but could apply to all kinds of events, unforeseen art exhibits, plays, and I hope that the city will encourage these kind of events in the future. Thanks.
All right, thank you for speaking.